Hey, it's Justin back again. I wanted to talk about loneliness and the fear of losing touch. I was thinking about this as it pertains to adulthood versus childhood. I was remembering when I attended a summer camp away from home for a month when I was a teenager, and I found a nice group of friends there that were into the arts like I was, which was something that I didn't consistently have a friend base of in my typical school back home. And kids from all over came to this camp. It was called Ballabay. I don't think it's around anymore, but it was in Camptown, Pennsylvania, just to give a little perspective. And I remember when I left, I'm not going to say I remember all my feelings, but um, that, I hope to keep in touch with people from there. And of course, there were some that I did for a while, but then we lost touch. And I think as a child, um, even if we don't have as many friends, because I certainly was in and out with that throughout my school years, we have more resilience about those kinds of things because there's not such a finite sense of like limited time and feeling like the uh, choices are slim. Whereas once you get out of college, especially at least in my case, and I've moved around a bit, um, I, being the socially driven person that I am, but someone who's lived on my own most of my adult life, I find that when I really feel like I strike a chord with someone and relate, and especially if it's in a situation where I know it's just like for a short time we're going to work together, um, that sense of the limited time really kind of takes over my psyche, and I start to really fear that losing touch. Once we go our separate ways to different jobs or locales. And sometimes, it's a challenge too because different people have different perspectives when they're getting to know people over a short period of time. Like for myself, I'm kind of an open book in a lot of ways, and I am, if I really dig someone, like I'm open to developing a friendship rather quickly, whereas I find the majority of people like to take things a lot slower. So I realize that a lot of it is in my mind how I perceive things versus how the other person might be. And so it's this kind of juggling act in my mind of, well, should I try to broach the subject of like, are we going to stay in touch or whatnot? Because on one hand, if you don't try, you never know. But on the other hand, if someone is not that kind of a person and they just say sure to be polite, um, then it's almost like creating more of a hope that's not realistic. And some of this does relate to a video post I made a couple days ago about being a gay guy in a straight world. So I'm not going to say that it's not intertwined at all with that, but it did get me to thinking about this broader um, subject of how we perceive our choices of friends. If we have a hard time building a community of stable friends, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it. I think like probably a lot of people feel this way. Sometimes I look around, like for instance, when I'm at the gym and I see people working out together, I think, wow, so many people seem to have these friends that they can just do these things with regularly, and how they build that, because I have felt like such inconsistency about that kind of a thing. So I feel like when I actually gel with someone in a way that to me at least feels natural, like I really want to take advantage of that and like build on it, even though sometimes I know the circumstances are not realistic for that. So that's just kind of what I wanted to talk about, and be curious to hear others' input on that. Um, some of this does depend on the type of city or area that one lives in, but at the same time, I think a lot of this is universal, especially these days when so many of us rely so much on our mobile devices to fill up time and whatnot. Um, I'm someone who, for a very long time, did not do that at all, and then out of necessity, I converted back to having a smartphone. But even in the bits of time that I've had to depend on that more, I've realized why I'm not that kind of person because it really sucks the life out of you in a lot of ways, and it really I'm going into a little side diatribe here, but I think so many times when I see analysts talking about where's the cause of this problem and that problem and crime and different things, I mean, the answer is pretty clear. But given that dependency and the way that a lot of people just kind of lose themselves in that and time goes by, it's like a time sucker. I mean, that affects too, I think, how people's expectations are about others as far as, if someone is actually reaching out to them and trying to be a friend, they might not even process it that way because they're just so used to people kind of like being in and out, like nice one day, not so much the other day. And, because they're just doing whatever their own thing and just, their main friendship might be with their smartphone. So those are just some things I added because I guess they could be considered in the context of this conversation. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.